go.
Abrasives and Grinding 101. We're going to talk about finishing our metal after we've done some welds. We've used the belt sander already, which has abrasive belt on it of 60 grit. Now grits mean how coarse or how fine you're going to sand something. The lower the number, coarser the grit. 60 grit on the belt sander. These little flaps are 50 grit, and it goes up from there. We've got some 60 grit here. You can sand wood with 320 grit. You can sand the finish on a car with 1200 grit if you want to get all the fine scratches out. So it goes all the way up to like 2400 or 3000 grit. Very high. We don't use much more than like 80 grit in here. I think these are 60 grit as well. I've got 4 of our common types of grinders in here, and one of the things I don't do, it's a sawzall in the background. Can you still hear me? Okay, good. One of the things I don't do well is explain the difference between all the grinders and which ones are best for any given application. Let's do it based on cost. Most people grab these little grinders, the hand grinders, because number one, they sound awesome. They're pull start. Number two, they're easy to handle, and they're petite and small. But they don't do a good job of taking a lot of material away. So, Ethan, if you can zoom in on this, we've got one bad area of weld on Logan's. Everything else is good. We've got some bird crap that fell on there. We got to get rid of it, right? We could sit here for 2 minutes and grind away, and in the meantime, we'd waste one of these discs. And these little roll-lock discs are $1 a piece. They're expensive, okay? How these work, they're really cool. They have a coarse thread on the back that rolls off like this, and then you just lock them in place, and they spin, and they're always locking themselves on, okay? These are only used for finishing of edges, like, okay, my project's done. Then I'm going to go over and I'm going to touch up all these edges. I might take weld spatter off, which are those spots or specks. And, Logan doesn't have much other than this. Here's a screw hole. Works great to finish that out, okay? But it's not really for big welding, or for big grinding. The next one I'm going to show you is a flap disc, and this is a full one, or a healthy one right here. And it's a whole layer of sanding discs, or pieces of sandpaper that are glued together and laminated. Now you can see this one's pretty worn out. It'll still do the job. On these 4-inch grinders, there's a safety trigger that you have to pull back. See that? There it goes. You can see that this is faster than these little guys, and they do basically the same job. So when in doubt, use the flat disc. This is pretty much the most versatile one we have. Okay, I'm going to show you how to change that out quick, just for the fun of it. Unplug it for safety. This is called a spanner wrench, and it's a wrench with 2 pegs or prongs on it. We have to lock this head up so it doesn't rotate. There's a button right here that we hold in. When we rotate it, it'll lock. When we take the spanner wrench, find those 2 holes. Gun show! Oh, there we go. I think I got it. Yeah. Spin this off. Garbage. New flap disc. And tighten it back up. Now, I usually take care of changing these out just for safety reasons, but you've seen it demonstrated now. Third option for grinding. This is, okay, I really screwed up. I welded a handle on to my paintball shield that is ugly. And Mr. Schulte says I have to cut it off. This right here, a solid fiber wheel, is the best. This will cut through metal. So if I wanted to cut or slice into this, I could do that. In this case, to get rid of a lot of this material at once, I'd start out with this one right here, because it's going to take a lot of material away. Louder, more aggressive, it's not for finishing. But, well, heads up, we're going to shoot sparks this way. Now, what I'm doing, sometimes you can plunge it right into metal and it'll cut. The old chop saw blades, like that chop saw, used to be this carbide material, and not carbide, carbon fiber discs. Now we have carbide metal cutting. But I'm just going back and forth over that, looking and seeing if I'm getting close down to flush. You can see how coarse and aggressive that is, though. It leaves some really big cuts in it. So then I'd go back and maybe finish with my little hand grinder. And if I'm going to paint that, You don't have to grind your welds down in this class. In fact, I think a good looking weld looks great to leave it show because it's beautiful if it's done well. There's nothing wrong with that weld right there. A little pinhole, but if we let that show, that'd be fine. If there's a bump there and I want to knock that down, I can go over all of them and just clean them up. Final option, big dog. 7-inch flap disc. This is a serious machine right here. This thing weighs like 10 or 15 pounds, I don't know. This is for heavy duty finishing, like the square tubing that's got some corrosion on it, we want to take the rust off, or I've got a lot of welds that I want to go over and clean up. You can use these, 2 hands at all times. If you catch an edge on this thing, it will send you kind of flying. They're a lot heavier. So we want to make sure that we've always got the front side is the downstroke side, and we kind of want to be in a position where we're never going to catch an edge. If I catch a sharp edge like this, it'll break the disc. So I'm contacting right here with the pad, and I'm just going back and forth. What I wouldn't want to do is catch an edge like this. If I put that in there right now, it would grab onto the inside of that tube, pop it like this, and it would probably take a big chunk out of the flap disc. And these are like 12 bucks a piece. They're not cheap, so we don't want to do that. But we can go over everything. We got any screw holes? Okay, so those are your grinding options for finishing. My expectation is that all edges of tubing, all weld joints, all corners will be filleted or radiused, either by the belt sander or after you've welded with one of these 4 options. Questions? When you're done, let's go over that. We are going to assign somebody to grinders because we've gone over it now. Wrap up the cord around the head like this, on the body. And then they get hung up on the side of the tool cabinet. There's a stirrup for each one of them. Okay? And see.